All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He's Steve Purciello, longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, and athletic director. And this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 15 minutes of NBA anywhere. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We're glad you found us. This podcast is born out of the content of Steve's 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts articles, which he publishes weekly. Steve and I have exactly 15 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today, we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article, where he shares his thoughts as both the NBA Summer League and offseason drama has begun. I'm getting the timer ready. Boom. Steve, are you ready?
Ready.
Let's start the timer now. All right, we have to start talking about LeBron James. We've spent some time talking about it before the show. It's hard for the greats to understand when to make that decision to be a bench player like CP3, like Vince. CP3 is still starting, but his time is down. Or to keep trying to hold on to what they've got. And that's not exactly what's happening to LeBron. He's still great. He had a great season last year. You called that out. But bumpy in LA, for lack of a better word. How do you see things playing out? Arguably the greatest player of his generation, who you said in your article, he has a few years left. How do you see it playing out? Where do you think he's going to end up playing?
He's going to go somewhere next year, but I think he's going to be a little bit surprised. He's going to play with the Lakers, and that could get ugly this year where he has to be traded. Don't forget, he's got a no trade. They don't have to do it. But I think he's having a tough time understanding that he's not the most sought after man on the team, and he's not the big wheel. And dropping out of that is difficult. And it's a tough thing to understand. If they want to trade him, who's going to trade him when he's making $56 million and it's only for the rest of this year, who's going to do it? And you might lose him forever. What team is going to do that? That's a lot of money they got to pay the players they have to give to the Lakers to even that trade off. That's a little difficult. So if LeBron really was so upset about everything and worried, he might have taken a little less money or thought about it and renegotiated that. I think this is his last year with the Lakers. I think we're going to see what happens, but I think it's difficult. He's another star, great player, that's realizing when you don't have that ability anymore, you're not as wanted as you once were.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to end your career, Grace. We've seen it before. Kobe's last 2 years in LA were great. The team wasn't great. Yeah, it's difficult. The Cavs have come out and said they are interested in LeBron James, but only under one condition. That's if he's available after a buyout. Right?
That's right.
Well, I do, because that would be amazing. Right? I think I'd love to see that NBA that, but the Lakers' hands are tied right now. Do you see any scenario at all where they just bite the bullet and only $56 million?
Is if he blows it up. Meaning he just doesn't, and that, I don't know if that's a wise thing to do because then you're going out not beloved. The smartest thing right now for him to do, I think they're trying to figure out what kind of market would be there in a year if everything continues. But the smartest thing might be to just say, this is my last year and get his goods or whatever awards or whatever they give him and get the heck out. I don't know if he could handle that for his ego because I think he likes to be out front and everybody seeing it. Now, I want to just add something. When we talk about player empowerment, which we've talked about, Bron is the poster boy for player empowerment. And what he did was change the whole attitude among players. And I want the players to make as much as they can. But what he did was tell them basically, or show them, loyalty is nothing. Get the money or go to a place and if you're that good, make demands, do whatever you have to do to get whatever you want at the expense of a team. Now, for fans, that's difficult because fans root for laundry, the laundry meaning the team name. And when you go to different teams, you're not doing it. And that's a ring chaser. Bill Russell didn't have free agency, but I didn't see him do it. I didn't see Magic do it. I didn't see Larry Bird do it. I didn't see some of the great Jordan didn't do it. These people played with one team and took the people they had and did the best they could. And also, Jordan didn't like Larry Krause, but Krause ran the show and he brought the players in. He didn't ask Jordan what he thought. He just brought him in. And Jordan came, showed up, and played well too. But, so that's where the game has changed through LeBron. And that's not a
Right.
good thing for the game.
Yeah. And let's take that to its, what I think, logical conclusion, or at least in my brain, what is the logical conclusion? I think it's an interesting conversation. LeBron has been in the finals, I think, 10 times. He's won 4 for 3 different teams. First player to ever do. Now, nice resume, but to your point, it's only 4 in 20 plus years. You can make arguments there. Let's rewind. He stays in Cleveland. We know he won 1. Okay. And they went on his return. Let's say he had a 20-year career in Cleveland and he took that team to the final, let's say 5 times and won 3. All right. So what's more impressive to you? A 20-year career, same team, 5 championships, three titles, or 20-year career, 4 different teams or 3 different teams and 4 championships and 10 finals.
Staying with one team, and let me qualify that. If the money is similar from
Right.
both teams, and guys who play with one team automatically, because of the agreement, the CBA,
More.
they would get more. So
Yeah.
if the money is somewhat similar, you want the guy to play with one team. And when you look at the Cavs, they might have won a few more. No, because then they might not have had the number.
Right.
And you don't know. But the point being, what did he do? He chased rings. And then when he got there, he made all kinds of demands on management. Trade this guy, Anthony Davis, do all this because I want these guys with me. And because he's the best guy in the game,
You
management
do it.
gave in a second. So that's where, as a fan, I understand money, but I also understand that, you know what, you went to Miami, what'd you do? You rigged it so you had the best team, and you only won 2 with the best team. Had a 4.
Yeah.
You had 3. You and Dwayne Wade are 2 of the best 5 players in the game. You should have won more than that. Yeah, and Chris Bosh isn't bad either. So let's
Right.
not let's come on. But and by the way, when Pat Riley, who's an all-time great, stood up to him because he wanted Spoelstra fired. Might have been the only time
Right.
anybody stood up to LeBron
Right.
in his years of playing.
All right. A lot to talk about, a lot to unpack in a 20-year career, but let's leave LeBron to the side and go to LeBron 2.0, staying in the James family. You were impressed with LeBron James Jr., Bronny, in his first summer league game. It's not getting a lot of publicity out here. And I think, and again, I'm in LA, Steve is in the East Coast. And I think it's because looking at the numbers, right? The numbers didn't pop out at us. And so I think that's got a lot to do with it. But you saw the game. You were impressed with Bronny. What did you see different in his second year in his summer league debut?
First of all, it's summer league, so you can't go crazy.
Right.
I think it's more significant when a guy doesn't play well. Because if he can't hold his own in the summer league, he's not going to be that.
Yeah.
I think if a guy goes off, he's supposed to. But what I saw with Bronny, and there's some problems here. He can defend. He did a nice job against Cooper Flag the other night, and really forced him into taking a jump shot and not taking him to the basket because he tried to take him to the basket. And Bronny did a good job and giving away a lot of size and strength.
Yeah.
But he also is confident on the offensive end. He's willing to take a shot. Last year, he buried himself in the corner and didn't really get involved in the offense unless he was the last option. Now he took charge. He shot the ball a lot better. The biggest impediment he'll have is he's just too darn small. He's small and he's going to have a tough time, and teams are going to take him down they're going to run pick and roll. They're going to get him down low, and he's going to have a problem. But I think he's on the road to becoming a solid role player in the NBA. He's not there. I think he can be.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, it's good to see, I think player was thrust into a more problematic first year than Bronny James. And he's, by all indications, he seems like a decent dude who's just out to try to play basketball. So I hope for good things for him. I really do.
I think a lot of fans are going to be rooting for him.
No doubt.
No, but you know what I mean? Where it's a situation, he's the underdog, and people always like the underdog.
100%. 100%. Let's pivot now because I thought this was super interesting. You, in your article this week, wrote about the best managed franchises in the Eastern and the Western Conference, and you listed them in order. So I'm trying to pull up the article now. I had it. Now I don't. Oh, there it is. Because I'm going to get these right. So I think it's interesting because you and I have talked a lot about poor managed teams, and that's next. But let's focus on the best managed teams first. One thing that I found interesting, here's the list. These are the top five, in your opinion, the top five best managed teams. That means president, GM, so on, right? Top to bottom. And in order, the Los Angeles Clippers, Golden State Warriors, San Antonio Spurs, Miami Heat, and Oklahoma City Thunder. Interesting there, of course, that the world champions are on the list. But as I look at this list, the Clippers have never won a championship. The Warriors, they've had a dynasty, but they didn't perform as well. Admittedly, there were some injuries for them last season. The Spurs were rebuilding, and the Miami Heat are the Miami Heat. So this is my question. It's a great list, but it's interesting to note that not all of the top five franchises listed here are coming off winning seasons. So best management doesn't always mean win now, right?
No, but let's use the Clippers. They've got a beautiful arena. They have an owner who will spend whatever he has to spend to get there.
Yeah.
They have had the same coach and the same president for years. And ownership, Ballmer, is a fan. He lets them run the show. And as long as they're competent, they will always be a pretty good franchise. What player wouldn't want to play in that arena with that owner? That is as good a situation for a player to get into. Look at San Antonio. The tradition for a team in a small town, small market. I mean, that's another situation. And by the way, the same thing. And what I was really fascinated to read, how Duncan and Popovich are always around during the summer and all. So there's this history. They've had the same GM, the same owner. It's just a sense where, wow, and Manu is around all the time. It's just a perfect situation to play in. The Warriors, I know Myers left. Bob Myers left, but Dunleavy has taken over, and he was the assistant. And it's the same. Curry's been there forever. The ownership, Lacob, and those people have been there. What you find with teams that are well run, ownership is smart enough. It's not a toy that they manage. They don't tell you who to get. They back off and let these people run the show. And they build a nice tradition and a nice situation. I did leave out the Lakers and the Celtics because ownership has changed, and we don't know where that's going to go. Although I think in both cases, they will be okay because both seem to have pretty good new owners coming. But
yeah. You stole my thunder. That was my follow-up question. Where are the Celtics? Where are the Lakers? Are two greatest franchises in NBA history. They're not on your list, but that makes sense.
I think what we do know, I think every player would love to play for Boston and the Lakers because of the tradition and all it stands for. He's got an advantage because the weather's better and LA is LA, where Boston's this little town compared to it. But both of them, that's a whole different thing because they're at the pinnacle. If you're a Yankee or you want to play for the Yankees in baseball because of the tradition of the years and all of that. So it's a similar thing in that way.
Yeah.
I'm glad with the Lakers, I felt bad having to do that.
No. I appreciate that they're at least in the conversation, but I think what comes up here, which I think is super interesting, to broad brush it, right? You want a well-run franchise, you've got to let people do their job, number one. And then you really value the loyalty that you talked about and pay fair, right? All of these franchises have guys who have been there a very long time. Steve Kerr, you mentioned Duncan, David Robinson, Manu Ginobili, Dwayne Wade, these guys who had their entire career in that franchise. And there's probably a reason why.
Dwayne Wade didn't. He played for Chicago. So let's, that one. Yeah, but he did get a statue and he got all the good stuff there. So I guess he deserves a lot of credit. But that's a little different. I want to just make one thing clear too. If you're a sports fan, you get caught up in who the general manager is, the coach. What you need to always pay attention to is the owner. And the owner's good ownership wins. That means people who let their people do their thing and don't think they're a general manager or a coach. And when you look at any sport, look at the ownership to find out why. And I'm going to use a different sport to exemplify that. The Washington, I guess they're the Commanders in football. They had that guy, Dan Snyder, running the show. Washington had a great tradition in football. And when he took over for about 20 years was a disaster because he liked to mingle or get involved. That's the example of bad ownership.
Yeah. Which is a great segue. You heard our buzzer go off, but we're just obliterating that today because we've got a lot to talk about. We took a week off, so we're going to go a little extra. Those are the best managed teams. Let's talk now about the worst managed
Yeah.
teams. Now, again, in order right now, I'll list them and then I've got a comment. And I want to ask you something. Number one, the Phoenix Suns. Number two, the Bulls, Chicago, Sacramento Kings, New Orleans Pelicans, and the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I noticed that the top teams weren't all winners coming off winning seasons, but the bottom teams are all coming off really poor seasons and have made some really poor decisions. So, based on this list of worst managed teams, it seems that it does mean if you're on this list, you have an increased chance of losing. Whereas being the best run doesn't mean you're going to necessarily going to win. But if you're poorly run, you're going to lose.
Look at it. The Suns have an owner that thinks he's a general manager and it's all about him. And it just doesn't work. They're at the bottom right now. They have some players. They have Booker and all, and they just made a trade getting Brooks, but they're still, it's a mess. It's a mess and it's unstable. Coaches change every year. General managers change. So it's just a mess. And then you look at Sacramento. They've gone through more coaches in the last couple of years than some good franchises have had probably the same amount of coaches over the years through their long tenure, where the Kings in the last 5 years have been through a couple coaches, 10 years, whatever. And that owner is not well regarded in the NBA circle. So you have that. Then the Bulls, Jerry Reinsdorf's in his late 80s. He's the owner of that team. Karnisovas was the president or general manager of that team. Any other team, he would have been fired a while ago. They're the epitome of a team just staying in the middle. And I don't know what he's doing. He could have gotten a draft pick as well as Josh Giddey when he traded Caruso. And Oklahoma City's got a bunch of them. And he didn't, it's just horrible. Kobe White is a good player. I don't think he wants to resign. He's going to look to go free agent because of his apparent dislike of the situation. Vucevic, they should have traded him a year ago. He's got 1 year left in his contract, so his value is good. They're just an average team. The only asset they do have is Billy Donovan, who is a coach and well regarded by the players. So that's one. And if we talk about the Pelicans, they're number 2 in the city. Everything's football there. They play in the arena right next to the big stadium by Superdome. The owner bought them because there was talk of movement and all that. Benson, she owns the football team also. Who passed away. So she's not really involved. She put Dumars in and they just made a trade that was suicidal where they gave up a draft pick with no lottery, nothing. There's nothing. That could be the number 1 pick next year. They gave it away to Atlanta for a queen from Maryland. So that's crazy. And then the Nets, you want to talk about somebody who, Morks, the general manager there, and I'm sure Josiah is a good person or whatever, but this guy's been in charge. They've turned over personnel more in the last 10 years, 3-4 times. What are we doing here? So that's the point that I'm trying to make. They're not well run, obviously.
No, and as I look at this list and I kept trying to think to myself, which one of these 5 teams, Suns, Bulls, Kings, Pelicans, Nets, has the clear path out? And I don't know. Is it in your opinion, because you said it all starts with ownership, can you succeed with a really bad owner? Or is that when
it's difficult?
Yeah.
The Knicks are starting to succeed with a bad owner. However, with the Knicks, the word is Dolan, their owner, hated Tibbs, and that's one of the reasons he was fired. So he's getting his fingers into the whole thing. If the Knicks win it, I'll believe, but I just see him doing something that gums up the works at some point. But think about it. Dolan brought in Isaiah Thomas 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. So he's not really on top of things. First of all, also, a good owner hires good people. The 5 bad ones I talked about, the new GM for Phoenix, Matt Ishbia, the owner, went to Michigan State and loved Tom Izzo. In fact, he wanted him to coach. But the new GM was a player at Michigan State. What are we doing? Come on.
as I look at this worst list, I know you and I are both baseball fans too. And you might remember Cincinnati Reds horrible owner named Marge Schott. Her team, and I don't know if this is
Yeah.
lore or factual, but I think her team swept the A's 4-0, which meant that she didn't get revenue
did.
for game 5. So she was mad at her
That's
team
right.
for winning the World Series in 4. So she didn't give them any money for celebrations. They had to go out and enjoy hot dogs and Cokes to celebrate. That's that's a horrible person. But her team won.
But yeah, they did. And it's good. Nothing is foolproof. But if you're an owner, you want your people wanting to play there, and you want to do things first class. And if you begin to not spend a couple $1,000s for a party or whatever else it is, those players talk, and they're gonna. So who the hell wants to come to Cincinnati? Why would you want to do that? If you're any of these teams, why would you want to come there? Except they give you more money. They're going to pay you more, but it's not a place. If you have choices, you're not going there. And that's part of it because it's just we run. That's all you can say.
Yep. A blind squirrel every now and again finds a nut. And maybe that's what happened in Cincinnati. All right, man. You heard the buzzer go off 5 minutes ago, but
Yeah.
the time is, it's what we do sometimes. I don't think we've ever once come in under the shot clock, but that's okay. We'll keep trying. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
This was one of the longest ones we've done.
Sure. Let's see if people appreciate it. The overtime. I think it was fun. I think it is definitely a good conversation. During the off season, I know last season we talked to Scott Foster, we talked to Kevin Gravey. We did things a little differently and we went away from the shot clock. We might do the same again this year, but stick around and find out. But make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article. We'll link it wherever you are watching or listening to the show. Of course, please join us next week. We're not quite sure what we're going to do, but we'll be back. Please consider subscribing. Join us next week again on the Shot Clock Pod, the best 15 minutes-ish of NBA Random Thoughts online anywhere. We'll talk later.